Hi everyone, my name is Olivia. Thanks for joining me on another video. Today I am going to be doing the review of Moving Beyond the Page. Before I go into talking about this curriculum, I just want to say I know it has taken me forever to get to this curriculum. There's a couple different reasons, but the main one for why it has taken so long is because my intentions fully were to give you guys an idea of how it works like all together and is a comprehensive curriculum. So there's a language arts portion and a science or social studies portion. When I very first looked into this and I did like the overview and I kind of glanced at it, when it came in, I thought that you were always going to have a language arts and a science, and then like the next unit was going to be language arts and a social studies, and it was going to flip-flop. That's not the way it is. The very entire first concept was language arts and science. And so I was waiting until I got to the next concept, or at least a unit that had language arts and social studies, so I could give you guys a clear picture of my opinion of the curriculum. That took a while because we had to get through 3 novels, and we move a little bit slower than I feel like the pace set for most curriculum, and that's because we do 3, maybe 4 days of school a week, but we never do 5, and because we fill up those other days with different activities and field trips and that sort of thing. So the timeline for us as a family to fit in curriculum is always a little bit longer. And then, you guys, this is the 3rd time I'm sitting down and recording this video to make a Moving Beyond the Page curriculum video. Not that it's like a dire thing, right? There's worse things happening. But I would like this one to be the very last one. And it's currently 10:19 p.m. Because I don't have any other time to do these things. And then I don't even know how long it's going to take this footage to get through the Google Cloud and get to Google Photos so that I can download it, because no, I can't just airdrop things from my Google phone to my laptop. I am technologically delayed, I will admit. That is a shortcoming of mine. I would like to remedy that. There's lots of ideas I have for the future to do that, but this is what I'm working with right now. So I am so sorry that this has gotten to be such a long time coming. That being said, we have entered the social studies unit, the very first one, because beforehand, a few weeks ago when I was trying to make this video, we still hadn't gotten to it yet, and I was like, oh, you know what, I want to just make the video and be like, listen, I haven't gotten to social studies yet, but here's what I think of science and language arts. But now we are entrenched in social studies, so perfect time to get into the video about this. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this is a comprehensive curriculum. So you can buy units and or subjects a la carte. If you piece them together like that from the website, you can do that. That being said, it is a box curriculum type thing. If you get the full school year package, there's 2 options. There is the language arts, social studies, science package, and then there's also all of that plus math. I cannot remember what the math option is. I think there's 2, maybe 3, but I'm pretty sure 2 math curriculum options that you can purchase for your kiddos when you buy Moving Beyond the Page. Through a certain grade level, it's Moving Beyond the Page is incorporating math into it, but when it reaches a certain grade level, they actually have another math curriculum. I think Singapore was an option, and I did not buy the math box, the full year with the math option in there, because we love our Singapore. If you want a video on the Singapore option that we use, because I know there's 4 or 5 different options out there, I will leave that review video down below. But I did not purchase the math option. There also is vocabulary / spelling curriculum that comes with the full year package. I'll kind of get to that. It's not like an actual curriculum that comes with it, but there's a component of spelling that comes with the full year package as well. So it is a box curriculum. So you have the option of, when you're purchasing it, to also purchase all of the literature pieces and or other resources that go along with the different subjects. I opted to do that. Most other years for other curriculum, I have pieced together all of the literature and resources from their literature, like their resource list from the different curriculums that we've used, and bought them used off of thrift books or cheaper if you can get it from Amazon. I know I don't always love buying books from Amazon. I like being able to buy them from different sources, but sometimes Amazon wins out when homeschool is out of pocket, you know what I mean? And a lot of times I have a lot of books or a good chunk of books that are on some different curriculum lists. And this time I had one book that was on the curriculum list, and I just did not have the time to purchase and go through and find all of the books that my kiddo was going to need. And so I did purchase them all brand new. That is a big chunk of money, and I'm so happy that we were blessed enough to be able to do that. You don't have to do that though. The science also comes with a science kit that I would say about 95% of the materials that you need for your science projects or experiments, what have you, about 95% of those are in the science kit. There's a couple times when I've had to find our own material for that, and that was kind of on me why it was a pain in the butt, because I just didn't look ahead far enough to resources. We needed a couple plastic water bottles, just plastic bottles, but we don't really drink single-use plastic bottles. And so I had to, when we got to it, my kiddo was like, oh, well, I need a plastic water bottle. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not doing this experiment today, and we will come back to it. So that's another reason why some of the curriculum took us a little bit longer to do, because I was like, I know you want to get to this. I would love for you to get to this too. We just don't have this material, that material. So on people who are more on top of their life than I am, it probably won't be a problem for you. There have been a handful of language arts projects that has been optional. First of all, and I'll get to it in the flip through and I'll explain it also, the activities and the options are optional. You can kind of curate what you want the curriculum to look like for you, but my son wanted to do the more hands-on stuff, and I didn't always have everything on hand for us to do that. So again, not that it's a super hands-on planning curriculum at all. It really is open and go for 95% of it. I just have been trying to let go of things right now, and there was a couple things I thought that I could source out, and certain things I can't. So that was one of my issues that I should have taken care of. So the package that I'm going to be talking about specifically today is the 10 to 12-year-old package, which for Moving Beyond the Page is their 6th grade package. Age-wise, my son is 5th grade, and the reason I've never bought a box curriculum for him was because he always was academically ahead of his grade, sometimes multiple grades for a certain subject. And so I couldn't just buy a 2nd grade box curriculum for him or a 4th grade box curriculum for him. And so I really curated my own year-long curriculum choices that way. But I really needed something different this year for my son. And what I was looking for specifically in a curriculum was I needed it to be as parents hands-off as I would want it to be, and student-led, and also still challenging. And that's exactly what I found with Moving Beyond the Page. Starting in 5th grade up, the assignments are written to the student. There is a section, I'll show you in the flip through, of the back of all the workbooks that's a parent guide, a parent overview, that basically has, it's an elaborated answer key is basically what it is. And so prior to 5th grade, the work booklets, you get a big parent book, and you are the one teaching your kiddo. And then there's another student worksheet book or project book that has the hands-on stuff that you would write in or cut out or something. The reason I know this is because I also had Moving Me on the Page for currently my 1st grader. When she was 4, I bought the 4 to 5-year-old package. And that's how it was. It was written out to you, literally scripted, so easy to implement for your kiddo. But having a baby this last year, knowing she was going to be, she turns 1 in February, And so really hands-on, lots of moving like pieces to life, and we still wanted to incorporate all of the kids' activities that they were doing also like outside of homeschool lessons. And so that was going to be lots of to and from. I'm so happy I went with this curriculum. I'm so happy I went with this curriculum. Like, I like it. I really enjoy it, and my son enjoys it too. So it's exactly what I needed it to be. When you open up the handbook, so he is in the 6th grade package. When you open up the handbook, it is talking to the student. So the directions are written out to the student, and it lists exactly what the objectives are, key ideas you're going to be learning in each one of the lessons, the material list, and the directions for all of the activities. You can be as hands-on as you want to be as a parent, like if buying the 5th or the 6th grade curriculum. Like, you can still, and up, right? You can still go through the lesson with your kiddo. It's not like you're going to hand this to them and like there's never going to be room for you if you want to be part of it. And what I do is I go through each of the lessons that we're going to do that week. I read through everything, and then I do a highlight of what I expect from my kiddo for that day. So there's going to be, there's almost always more than one, 98% of the time, there's more than one activity that they recommend you doing. Most of the time, there's 2 or 3. We rarely ever do all 3. And the only time I ever have him do all 3 of them is maybe if they're like learning something different that really encompasses the whole of the lesson that I would like to do. But most of the time I pick and choose the things that I think are going to serve my kiddo. So speaking specifically about language arts, there is everything in here that I really wanted it to be. I will say doing outside grammar curriculum before getting to this point, especially because I don't know how learning moving beyond the page teaches grammar to the younger grades. So I'm really glad that we did do the Michael Clay Thompson language arts, but mostly the grammar portions of this, because it really prepared him for when there is a grammar lesson. He basically already knows it, but we do a lot of them just to reinforce that, because we're not doing any sort of other outside grammar right now. There are literary devices, and there is grammar. There is sometimes some poetics mixed in there. There is a whole poetic unit, so I know that we're not going to go super in depth on that. There's some different like rhetorical lessons. There are story diagramming. There's just so much that the language arts component covers, and we're really enjoying it. The books so far have been really enjoyable for my son also. I chose to do the 6th grade unit. I looked at both 5th grade and 6th grade, and I wanted him to still be a little bit challenged when he was doing this curriculum. And when you go on to Moving Beyond the Page, I'm sure you'll hear it because I heard it too. They use the word, I'm trying to remember, I think they use the word gifted. It's like for gifted students, or maybe like advanced students or something like that. If that phrase gives you like instant hesitation, I would just pause and look through the videos. There are videos of, I'm pretty sure, all of the years that they offer on there, and they give you kind of like an inside look of what's going to be included and what you're kind of going to cover with that book. And then there's also an option at the top of each one of the years where it's like, this year package is aimed at students who can complete this and are ready for that and have been able to accomplish this. So you kind of have a good idea going into it, like, oh, actually, you know what, we're not great at essays yet. Maybe I'll look at the package underneath and see if they're going to teach us to write paragraphs in that one, and that one will prepare us for the essay. You know what I mean? So I don't love that term. Coming from a once gifted student in elementary school and being told I have kiddos that were told that we're gifted also, I hate that term. That term drives me bonkers. And if you're interested in some sort of like a rant video of some sort when it comes to that, let me know. I'd probably be happy to make that when I have time to do it. But I would just give yourself some pause, because I don't, as as challenging as I feel like this curriculum can be, I feel like you can make the load really light if you need to lighten it up. Obviously, you don't have to bump up a grade and then get the grade above package with an already challenging program, right? I mean, but even for age appropriateness, I really think the challenging part of it is mostly the rigor, and that can kind of be controlled by you as the parent. Like I said, we average 3 days a week of like sit down lessons. The concepts are really spread apart for us. So Moving Beyond the Page does recommend that you do the language arts and the science and or social studies unit together, but you can buy them a la carte. So you can just buy a literature unit for Number the Stars. Fine. And then there's always going to be a science or social studies component that goes along with it through Moving Beyond the Page. You can also buy that separately, but they do recommend, if you're doing the science or the social studies, to try and accompany it with a literature program. So let me kind of give you a rundown of how it's broken up. So there are 4 concepts in the school year through Moving Beyond the Page. Each one of the concepts has 3 units. Sorry, it took me a second to think about that. Each one of the concepts also has like a main topic or like a main idea of like what they focus the curriculum around. So let me just read it off to you. So concept 1 is environment and cycles. And you're going to be reading The Wanderer and then at the same time learning about weather and climate for Unit 1. Unit 2, you're going to be reading The People of Sparks. You'll be learning about geography and landforms at the same time. Unit 3 were short stories, and then we were learning about Our Changing Earth for Unit 3. So those were all science. And I think that was only supposed to take like 9 weeks to do a whole concept. I'm pretty sure they say each one of the units should take, like if you do it the way that they recommend it should take 2 to 3 weeks each. Ours took longer, and I think that's okay because you can make your homeschool look like what you need to make your homeschool look like. All right, let me go on and just read the rest, and I will go into the science portion of it because it was really good. It was really good. The science is the most worthwhile part of this whole curriculum from my point of view. Okay, concept 2, you're learning about force and power. So in Unit 1, we read Bull Run, which is Civil War, and then this is a social studies one. Social studies will be learning about slavery and the Civil War. Unit 2, we're going to be reading a biography about Albert Einstein, and we're going to be learning about force and motion. Unit 3, we're going to be reading Number the Stars, and then we'll be learning in social studies about World Wars I and II. So 2 social studies units and another science unit. Okay, concept 3 is all about change. We're going to be reading Tech Everlasting and learning about matter in science. Unit 2, reading Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, learning about the civil rights movement in social studies. Unit 3 will be reading The Giver and learning about chemical change in science. Concept 4, systems and interactions. So we'll be reading Esperanza Rising, learning about North and South America. Unit 2, The Tree That Time Built. I'm pretty sure this is their poetry block. Learning about cells in science. And then Secret of the Andes is the last book that we read, and we'll be learning about Incas, Aztecs, and Mayas. Okay, so the whole first concept 1 was a science block, and it was so much fun. So I don't like, even though my background in college is science, I went to school for cellular and molecular biology, and I love labs, and I love academics of science. I love all pieces of science, okay? I don't like the hands-on science stuff for elementary school, and I know that makes me a bore and a stick in the mud, and I dislike being that because I know how fun it could be, but it's like moving pieces, and like it's not that it's not like the end of the experiment is not fun, like it's always fun. I just like the artsy stuff and like the slowing down to do it. I'm not good there at doing that. I will be the first to admit that like that's probably one of my things that I need to get over and get better at as a teacher at home for my kiddos. That being said, moving beyond the page, especially when it's written to the kiddo, this has been fantastic. I don't know what the sciences look like for the younger grades, but it was written out exactly to my son, who was 10 and then turned 11 in the middle of this block. So if you want to have like an age idea of who's capable of what, I don't even know if that has relevancy in homeschool. I feel like young kids are always doing everything that all the older kids can do. Okay, anyway, especially we jump started in with weather and climate. Yeah. They made so many things. Like he made an anemometer and a barometer, and there was lots of weather things that he did and charts and crafts, and it just like, he was so pumped to do it. And it was so cool because I didn't have to help, but like I loved watching from afar. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, look at that, look at it work. Like they actually put these things together. And if I can find still clips, like pictures and stuff like that, I will try to insert them in here. But lots of like freezing things and melting things and seeing how things moved, and it was so neat. And the science resources are not dry, like big, thick textbooks that just have a bunch of words on the page. It does take some time to read the things, but it's not overwhelmingly just like info dump. Like all the resources have lots of pictures or charts or things you relate to other things with. And I know things is not the best word here, okay? I'm trying. It's 10:45. I'm trying, okay? But it was so fun. Geography and landforms, that was also fun. And like you got all sorts of little like rocks and gravel things, and you learned about like, it was so cool. For this age group of kiddos, the amount that's hands-on, that is not an absolute, like there's no like, nothing was such a giant mess that it destroyed my house. There's like, I loved it. He could sit at the table, he could sit at the counter, he could do his things. It was so cool. I'm hoping the other science pieces are like this. So right now we are currently in Concept 2, Unit 1. We're reading Bull Run, which is a novel that takes place during the Civil War, and we're learning about slavery and the Civil War. And I think it's great. And there's lots of the resources outside of the curriculum itself, but he's learning about propaganda and fact versus opinion, and there's lots of primary resources back then. And my son, who really does not have a problem with vocabulary or like reading, like I couldn't even tell you what reading level he's at. I mean, he's not going to enjoy Charles Dickens right now at just turned 11 years old, but could he read it and get through it? He would probably comprehend, I would say, like 65% of the book, like word-wise. But there's, pieces in here that he was like, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, I'm actually so excited for you that you don't necessarily know what that means. Let's figure out how to look it up so you can look these things up. Like, it has challenged him in the best way without it being so difficult that it's discouraging. But also when things are so easy, it's discouraging. And I would say, I don't think that one of the reasons why like a kid's workbook has always not been attractive to me, like curriculum wise, is because I feel like it's just busy work and you don't retain. You have to do the lesson before you get to any worksheets on here, and it correlates and goes along so seamlessly with the work that it's not busy work. Like when you have a worksheet to fill out, it's not busy work. And I feel like it asks really thoughtful questions when it comes to the reading for both the literature pieces and the science and or the social studies pieces. And this is kind of a heavy subject for my kiddo. We have not gotten into the Civil War in this much depth in anything yet, and I am happy to do that. And there's like, a lot of death and stuff like that right now, and so the pieces are heavy, and I think the resources chosen are age appropriate in the best sort of way. And they have him making cookies and cooking for social studies, making berry ink, writing diary entries. And so also there's always like a cumulative project at the end of each one of the units for both the language and then whatever other component there is. And it's always been different. Like, he was like a weatherman and did like this weather report and had to explain how different fronts moved and what different weather was going to come up. And he wrote an essay for one of the language arts pieces, and then he wrote a short story for another, and then he put on a play for another one. And those weren't things he just came up and decided to do that himself. I mean, it guided him to do that in the curriculum itself, and there are options to do that. There are also options to do different things, and that's what I love about this too, is that for the most part there are options of what you can make it look like for your kiddo to interest your kiddo the best you can, obviously within the realm of still like understanding the concepts and the key ideas of what the lesson wants you to get. I do think that they did a great job of splitting up like the different pieces of literature and stuff like that. Like, there are novels in here, and then there is a biography, there is short stories, and there is poetry, there is fantasy, and then there is contemporary fiction, like The Wanderer. I'd never heard of this book before. It's contemporary fiction about these two like younger teens who travel on a sailboat with their family from the upper east coast of the United States across the Atlantic Ocean to the UK. And it would never have been a pick that I would have probably chosen for my kiddo, one, because I'd never heard of it, and two, because it's just, my kiddo really loves fantasy. And the contemporary fiction piece, the first book, going into it, I was like, oh, I really hope that he likes this. I really hope he likes this, because it was our very first book for the whole piece. It was so good. It was so good. And it's been a long time since I've read middle grade fiction, other than like maybe when I'm pre-reading something for my kiddo. And the contemporary stuff, I'm like so excited for him to start getting into, obviously with some, boundaries. But I thought that that was really neat. I remember reading The Giver and Number of the Stars as a 5th grader as well. And I'm excited, and also like it's a little bittersweet having him read those, because I know how heavy the content is, For the spelling, so I've never ever used a spelling curriculum for my kids. I just haven't. It's not one of the things that I personally think is like a deal breaker when it comes to learning, is spelling. I know other people have different philosophies. So if you guys are big spelling curriculum users, and or you think that it's really, really important for, like overall knowledge and things like that as your kiddo is growing and learning, totally keep using them. Like, my opinion doesn't matter, right? To share my opinion, I just feel like as long as your kiddo is a reader, right, and that's not something that you need to address in a different way and step by step, like help them in that regard. As long as they are reading and they don't struggle with it and they don't have any other sort of learning impediments or disabilities or what have you, they're going to be exposed to words often that they're going to start picking up how to spell them. And I know that sounds like, no, Olivia, that's not how it works. That is how it's worked for us. And like, I've never ever done a spelling curriculum with my son. And I know like he kind of has just like gotten a lot of things, like he just kind of gets it, but it's not like he never misspells words. Like, he misspelled words often until he was like 9, you know what I mean? Like, words where I was like, dude, I think we've, like corrected this word like several times, remember, like, let's go over it again, He doesn't never misspell words, and even today he misspells words. I just a lot of the different spelling curriculums I've seen anyway don't really like teach you, it doesn't teach you the phonetic rules of how to spell anyway, and a lot of spelling curriculums have come across as just busy work. And especially in other people's reviews that I've seen, they're like, oh yeah, like let's go over different curriculum we use, this was the spelling, I wasn't super impressed with it, and I've never felt compelled to buy my own spelling curriculum. That being said, Moving Beyond the Page comes with a spelling component, and it also doesn't teach you how to spell words. It basically is like all spelling curriculums that I've come across, for like when you generalize it or when you get down to it, it's like, this is the word, can you spell it right? no, mark it wrong and try again sort of thing. It's kind of like that. So, but it's on the computer, and we don't do a lot of computer work, though Moving Beyond the Page does ask them to look up lots of different links and that sort of thing on the computer, which my son's really excited about because we don't do a lot of computer things here at our house. We just don't. There's always links in the curriculum that it like tells you what the link is on here, and almost all of them are like on the Moving Beyond the Page website, and then you go and the link, it sends you to that link from their website. So it's never like you're just typing something into Google too. So I like that. And it has been fun for him to start using the computer more that way. But back to spelling, it's on the Moving Beyond the Page website. They say the word. I don't know how it works for the younger grades. For his grade, it says the word, you type the word, it tells you if you got the word right, and then at the end there's like a score, and then I think you get to try the word again, and then if you get it wrong, it like moves it on to the next week. There's like a spelling list for each week, and it takes like 5 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. And so he thinks it's fun. Like, I don't ever grade, like his feelings are not hurt when he cannot spell something right. I think he's gotten a couple words where he's like, oh, now I spelled that wrong. I was like, okay, that's fine. But he likes doing it because it's on the computer again. So yeah, if you're looking for a very involved spelling curriculum, when it says that spelling is included, it's not like that. So, but it's fun, and we do it like that. All right, I am going to dive into the flip through now. All right, so I'm going to give you a look into the Moving Beyond the Page workbooks themselves. So this is the material that you're going to need for 1 unit. So this is, and all of them have it on here, so you don't really need to do a lot of work as far as like keeping track of everything. So this is Concept 2, Unit 1. Remember, there are 3 units per each concept, 4 concepts in a package year. So this is the language arts book, and this is the social studies book. For science, you would have a language arts book and a science book. Let's take a look into the language arts one here. So this is the novel Bull Run. This is about the Civil War. When you open this up, you're going to have a table of contents. There is the curriculum written out to the student. All of the like worksheets would be in here, etc., directions. And then in the back, anything with this headlined in gray, this is the parent overview. Okay, we have not gotten to this lesson yet. So let's take a look at, if you're just, this is brand new and you're opening up, this is what you're going to see. There's always a getting started, and this is for the kiddo. So this is not on the parent. Obviously, you be involved and look through whatever you want to do. I definitely look through all the lessons that I assign my son ahead of time, and then I highlight out for him, and I'll show you how I do that, what the different options are, and what I expect from him. So getting started, the stuff you'll need. So right at the very beginning of the lesson, they see, okay, so everything I'm going to need for this lesson is going to be just this novel. There are other lessons where they have other things that they're doing. Like here for this one, it recommends having all of these ones depending on what activities you're doing. So I'll get to the multiple activity situation. Ideas to think about. So before you go into your reading, you start the lesson. How about we start thinking about this as we go into everything? And then this is going to be a grammar lesson in this for this day. So this is post-reading. So it tells you what pages to read here, and then these are some comprehension and questions that have to do with the reading, and then the activities will be afterwards. So it looks like just a bunch of words on the page, which is why I do the highlighting. But for this one day, there are 2 activities for this lesson for language arts. In each of these activities, for activity 1, there are 2 options that you can do. And it's going to show you here for activity 1, here's your option 1. So it's all labeled, which is nice. So it's not overly confusing for your kiddo to get through it with the materials. For activity 1, here's option 2. If I wanted to do activity 1, so all of the lesson for activity 1 is here. All of the lesson for activity 2 is here. So this is some like more of a creative option. In this instance, I might have him do both of these. There's other days where I wouldn't necessarily choose all of the activities to do. And then you're going to read through and say, okay, if you're doing this activity, I want you to do option 1. Or if you're doing this activity, I want you to do option 2. So let's see, this is lesson 6. So in the parent overview, you can see that this is a lot more condensed and much smaller than your typical parent guide if you as the parent are teaching the lesson. For those reading questions, here are some general answers that they want you to look for in their answers. And then also the answer key for both of the options for all of the activities in the lesson. In the wrapping up section here, this is more of like the deep thinking and how you as the parent can kind of connect with your kiddo in the lesson. Their wrap up is going to look different than your wrap up. This is like questions for you to present to your kiddo and then have a conversation back and forth. But yeah, this is the entirety of, it's like I said, it's kind of like an elaborate answer key is what it is. It's not really written out for the parent to teach to their kiddo at this age and this stage. So let's look at the very first lesson. So the very first lesson here, I always highlight because there's so much reading on the page. I just want him to do what I want him to do. I don't need him to get through all of it. Remember, in my video and discussing right here, I say I rarely ever ask of him to do all of the activities. Rarely, unless they're all 4 completely different components of a lesson that I think like they're all important things that I think my kiddo needs to do. But the way that you can really make this curriculum what you and your family needs is to just pick and choose. And that is the best advice I can give with the Moving Beyond the Page curriculum. So I highlight getting started. I want him to look through here and read what this has to say. I want him to read everything that I have highlighted here. In this instance, I asked him to do some sort of all 4 of the activities. I rarely ever do that. And I'll flip to another example where I show you that. But here, map of the Civil War states, I obviously wanted him to do this part because it kind of is the whole basis for how you're understanding the movement of characters and different things that are happening in the Civil War. So activity 1, here's activity 1. I highlighted this too because you can go through here. There's lots of options on here that like, well, I didn't choose activity 5. It's not highlighted because I didn't want him to do that one. So I try to make it really clear so there's no kind of sitting and waiting like, oh, well, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. I have removed that issue for him. Here in activity 2, they wanted you to like write out a journal piece that to go along with this activity. I didn't need him doing all of that extra writing this day. I just wanted him to have that information. So here I just added this note, just read the resources, don't fill out your journal activities for here. So it has all of the links on here. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, they're all linked at Moving Beyond the Page, and then it takes you to the resource that you will get this information from. I love this, so it's not just your kiddo going on Google. If that's cool for your family, I mean, like, I'm not making a comment about that. For us, we just don't have an open and go internet policy at our house. So I love that it's just all right here. I still wanted him to read this information. So that's why I made the note. I did want him to start his timeline because this has to, like, this pulls through the entire curriculum for this unit. I do read through and do extra highlights of certain things that I may want him to pay attention to. Again, I thought this was a really, in this instance, when I had him do a lot of the activities, this lesson 1 was split up into 2 days. So there was 3 activities this first day. I chose 2 of them for him to actually do the activities, plus I wanted him to read these sources. Day 2, for lesson 1, this says activity 4 and activity 5 and activity 6. So there's also 3 options for this day. As you can see here, I only wanted him to do activity 1, but it's 4. This is the first one of the day. So I wanted him to do activity 4. And I wanted him to do activity 6. But again, so I go through here in the activities and I highlight the certain or specific things that I just think are like a really important point, or maybe something that I think my son specifically needs to work on or pay attention to. Even in this activity, there were multiple options. I highlighted the option I wanted him to do. So then going through here, I highlighted the different activities I wanted him to be doing. Like here, day 2, there was also 3 options: helping verbs, during the life of the Civil War letters. I wanted him, this was just drawing. So me choosing 3 options on this day, this one was something that I thought was fun and wasn't going to take up a lot of sit down time, is I guess kind of how I explain that. All right, so when you very first open this book, there's that table of contents. And then there's also an explanation of how they recommend structuring your day. So they recommend 30 minutes for your language arts reading and questions. So this is going to be when you have your lesson and it says, all right, read pages this through this. They don't expect you to read it the night before. You can structure your school however you want. They just suggest taking the 30 minutes to read that passage from the book or those pages, and then spend an hour on the language arts lesson that you have decided for your kiddos to do that day, including vocabulary and spelling in there. Remember, I kind of talked to you a little bit about what their spelling structure is like for this curriculum. We just do it once at the end of the week, us personally, but they say that could be included in there. And then spend 60 minutes on your social studies or your science lesson after that, 60 minutes on your math instruction. They say to add in 30 minutes of physical activity, and then the optional 30 minutes of extended projects based on your interests or reteaching skills not mastered during a lesson. This is just kind of like their typical recommended day. So this is 4 hours of instruction that they recommend. Sometimes it takes us half of this. Sometimes it takes us all 4 hours. We're not a family that tries to be done before lunch for my 11-year-old. Sometimes the rigor of lessons really does take a good chunk of the day for us. That doesn't mean yours has to look like that. Okay, this is their vocabulary. It tells you the main words that they want you to achieve mastery with, and they want you to take some time daily to reinforce these. I don't. We kind of look at these together in the very beginning, and I ask him specifically if there's anything that is new to him or something that he wants clarification on. If I run into those as they come up, I highlight them and go into basically okay, well, this is, an example of that. So let's definitely do this lesson then. But it's not a heavy thing. It's not like a whole separate vocabulary curriculum. Same with spelling. It's very non-intensive, at least the way that we approach it. At the very end, there's always that project, the final project. Each unit, the options for the project are totally different. So here they expect them to write an argumentative essay. I kind of knew that this would probably be in here because there's 2 very divisive sides to the conflict of the argument of why the states went to war in the first place. So they're wanting them to form argumentative essays and be able to argue your point. So they take you through drafting it. We have taken writing classes before this. We did the IEW structure and style writing course. So he was familiar about how to write essays going into this grade 6 program. So this is a lesson on how to put together an argumentative essay. You can see here that it says the final project is a 3-day project. So this isn't something that they're expecting you to get done in one day. It's a pre-writing process, and then a drafting process, and then a final copy, editing, all the things. It gives you a rubric for how to do it, and all of the final projects for all of the units are similar. They're going to give you multiple days. They're going to lead you through it. They're going to set it up like that for you. Like I said, they're not all essays. We wrote a short story in one, and there was a puppet show for another one, a weather presentation, you're a weatherman for another one. So my recommendation is to pick and choose what activities, read through, and you choose the activities that you want your kiddo to be taking part in. If they did all of the activities every single day, that would be a very, very, very long day, a very long school day. And if they're able to do all of that within an hour or 2 for their whole school day, then my question is, do you think your kiddo is being challenged enough to get through it? Otherwise, you should expect to take a little bit of time with this curriculum, at least at this level. I do not make my 6-year-old sit at the table and do lessons for 4 hours. That being said, I don't even make my 11-year-old do that. There are 10 million breaks, and it takes a lot for us to get refocused and sit back at the table often. Okay, so like, we're not perfect here. My kids do not like just sit down and do 4 hours of school every single day. I was just kind of giving you a heads up of like the rigor that it would take to do this curriculum. Okay, so I hope I covered everything in here that you guys were curious about when it comes to moving beyond the page. Again, this is the 6th grade package, so I can't speak for any of the other years when it comes down to like the content or age appropriateness or how challenging it is. But as far as overall, like, I could totally see myself diving in and looking into what the 7th grade package is going to look like and maybe going forward with it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think that it is presented in such an easy way for you as the parent to teach it, as far as the 4 to 5-year-old package was, and then also for this 10 to 12-year-old package for the way it is written to the student. We have really thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. I love hearing from you guys, and if you guys have used Moving Beyond the Page and you didn't like it for some reason, leave that info down below too, because I think that that's really helpful for parents to see reviews on both sides, because maybe there's something that like works for me or I didn't even pick up that I didn't realize would be a problem for another family for the way that they teach and learn, and that might be really helpful information for other people. If you guys have used Moving Beyond the Page and you like it like I do, leave that information down below too. And thank you guys so much for watching this one. I will see you guys next time.